and is headed for its closest pass to the Sun at the end of October. It's moving at a velocity of about 105,000 km/h. On that day, telescopes scanning the silent dark between Jupiter and Saturn caught something that shouldn't have been there, a point of light, sharp against the endless black. At first glance, it looked ordinary, like a comet drifting in from the far edge of the system. That's what the first reports called it, a comet, icy and unremarkable. But within hours, the numbers told a story that no one could ignore. This was not ordinary. This was not routine. This was 3I Atlas, the third confirmed interstellar visitor in human history. Its motion alone broke every expectation. This object was clocked at nearly 35,000 mph, racing inward on a hyperbolic trajectory. For its distance from the Sun, scientists said that speed was extraordinary. It wasn't just unusual, it was impossible for something born here. NASA itself admitted, you have to be an interstellar object to be going that fast at that distance from the Sun. It cannot be native to our solar system. With those words, Atlas was no longer just a comet. It was a messenger from another star. But speed was only the beginning. As astronomers watched night after night, they noticed something stranger still. Normally, an object like this would remain frozen dark, invisible, until it drifted much closer to the Sun. Yet Atlas was already burning, glowing, alive with light. And soon, around this alien traveler, a vast coma began to unfold. In theory, we know what a coma is. Comets are frozen relics. Water ice mixed with dust and rock, preserved in the outer cold. As they fall toward the Sun, they heat up. The ice doesn't melt in space, it sublimates, leaping directly from solid to gas, creating a bright, ghostly halo. This halo, the coma, usually awakens only after a comet has crossed the orbit of Jupiter and approaches the asteroid belt. That's when the process should begin. That's when we expect the glow. But Atlas broke the rules. When the TESS space telescope reviewed earlier data, it revealed something shocking. The object had been blazing since May 7, 2025, long before it should have stirred. At that time, Atlas was still beyond Jupiter's orbit, where comets are supposed to remain silent, and yet, night after night, it was getting brighter, its coma swelling unnaturally fast, as if powered by something other than the Sun. To scientists, this was unexplainable. To others, it was undeniable. Atlas was not behaving like anything we had seen before. The coma was not just a natural glow, it was a signal, a warning, a question written in light across the black canvas of space. And this was only the beginning. This mysterious traveler is not behaving like anything we've seen before. Normally, comets are frozen fragments of water ice, mixed with dust and rock, wandering for eons at the edge of our solar system. As they drift closer to the Sun, the heat awakens them. The ice sublimates, turning straight from solid to gas in the vacuum of space, and forms the great glowing haze that we call the coma. Only then, once they pass inside Jupiter's orbit, do they begin to shine. But Atlas broke the rule book. When TESS first recorded it back in May, the object was still far beyond Jupiter. By every law of physics, it should have been silent, frozen, invisible. And yet, it was already flaring with light. Day by day, it grew brighter, as if something inside had already switched on. This wasn't a slow awakening. It was a blaze, a torch burning long before it should have. When the data came in, astronomers were stunned. The coma surrounding 3I Atlas wasn't water vapor at all. It was almost pure carbon dioxide, a ratio of CO2 to water 16 times greater than anything ever seen in a comet. A cloud so immense, it stretched nearly 300,000 kilometers, half the diameter of the Sun itself. Too big, too alien. The chemistry was all wrong, the proportions unlike anything born in this system. And then came the next shock. By late July, Atlas began to form a tail. That should have been normal. Comets always grow tails as the solar wind blows gas and dust outward. But this tail bent the wrong way. Instead of streaming away from the sun, it pointed toward it, as though gravity and solar wind had both been reversed. To witnesses, it was as if the laws of nature had been quietly rewritten. Still, the anomalies didn't end. When the Very Large Telescope in Chile split its light into spectra, it uncovered something baffling: nickel without iron. In nature, these metals are inseparable twins, forged together in the hearts of dying stars. They arrive in asteroids, in planets, always hand in hand. To find nickel standing alone was unthinkable, unless it had been separated intentionally. And suddenly, the whispers grew louder. Was this natural, or was it engineered? So the world's eyes turned fully upon it. Hubble, James Webb, Cepherex, TESS. Again, every instrument we have was aimed at this interstellar wanderer. And the deeper they looked, the stranger it became. Each observation answered one question only to raise two more. What is this colossal fragment of another world, or another mind doing in our skies? Why now? And why does every detail it reveals seem designed to challenge the very limits of what we call possible? As Atlas surged inward, its path carried it close to Mars, close enough that for the first time, cameras orbiting another planet could try to capture it. The European Space Agency mobilized two of its Sentinels, Mars Express and the ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter, to aim their high-resolution instruments at this mysterious light. It was not a perfect opportunity. 28 million kilometers is still an ocean of distance, but it was close enough to glimpse what ground-based telescopes could not. The outline hidden at the heart of the coma. Was it truly just ice and stone, or something with sharper edges, a symmetry that nature rarely provides? Even a hint of shape would change everything. But the window is painfully small. By late October, Atlas will pass behind the blinding glare of the sun. From Earth, it will simply vanish, swallowed by light beyond reach of even our strongest eyes. For weeks, perhaps months, there will be nothing but silence. And when it re-emerges, it will already be on its way out, retreating into the black, a visitor that never intended to stay. That is why astronomers are racing now, not only to study what Atlas is, but to decide what it means. Because this object is moving too fast to be captured by the sun's gravity. Its course is hyperbolic, a clean escape. That means we get one passage, one glance. When it leaves, it will never return, and that knowledge adds weight to every unanswered question. If this really is an alien relic, a fragment of another star system, or something more, then our encounter will be brief, and our memory of it fragile. NASA's own scientists know this. Plans are quietly being discussed to redirect the aging Juno probe, currently orbiting Jupiter, for one final mission. Juno was scheduled to end its life in 20, but now another possibility hangs before them. Send Juno chasing Atlas on its outbound flight to try and intercept the interstellar traveler before it disappears forever. Imagine it humanity's first close-up image of a truly alien object. The stakes could not be higher. And yet what do you hear on the evening news? Polite phrases: comet, curiosity, interesting discovery. They will not tell you that the coma is half the size of the sun. They will not tell you that its chemistry breaks every rule. They will not dwell on nickel without iron, or a tail that bends against solar wind. They will not say the word impossible, because to say that word would admit that we are not ready, that something is here which does not fit into the categories we built for comfort. So we are left to ask the questions ourselves. What if Atlas is not simply passing through? What if its brightness, its speed, its strange composition are not accidents of nature, but signals of design. What if the universe has just sent us a message, not in radio waves, but in the form of an object, hurtling past our sun, daring us to notice? And the most chilling thought of all, what if it has been noticed, not only by us? What if somewhere else, far older civilizations, are already watching this same traveler, marking its path, waiting to see how the younger minds of Earth will respond? Atlas does not give answers, it only multiplies the questions. Every telescope turned toward it deepens the mystery. Every spectrum of light reveals a pattern that should not exist, and with each passing day, it grows brighter, closer, as though it wants us to look, as though it was meant to be seen. But here is the real question. What is Atlas trying to tell us? Why now? Why this bright? Why this fast? If this were just a natural rock, an ordinary comet wandering into our skies, it should behave like all the others we've catalogued for centuries. But it doesn't. Every observation breaks the rules, bends the expectations, and forces us to look again. And perhaps the deeper question is not what Atlas is, but why it came at this moment. 2025. A year when humanity itself is standing at one of its greatest thresholds. Maybe it's all just coincidence. Maybe it's nothing more than a frozen relic, flung across the stars, stumbling blindly into our solar system. But what if it isn't? What if Atlas was sent? What if it carries a message, a warning, or even a test? Because remember, this is only the third interstellar visitor we have ever seen. The first was Oumuamua in 2017, a bizarre cigar-shaped object that defied every explanation. It showed no coma, no sublimation, no behavior of a comet at all, yet it moved in ways we still can't fully explain. The second was Borisov, less strange, more like a normal comet, comfortably familiar. But now with Atlas, the strangeness has returned, more radical, more undeniable, more disruptive. It's almost as if the universe is escalating, step by step, first a whisper, then a hint, and now something impossible to ignore. Atlas was glowing while still beyond Jupiter's orbit. That should not happen. Typical comets, icy bodies made of frozen water, mixed with dust and gas, do not begin to shine until much later, when the warmth of the sun melts their icy shells. The coma, that glowing halo of gas and vapor, doesn't form until they are far closer. And yet when NASA's TESS telescope first caught Atlas on May 7th, it was still on the other side of Jupiter, and it was already blazing, growing brighter every single day. Scientists admitted, this makes no sense, but maybe it only makes no sense if you limit yourself to what we already know. Soon the coma was analyzed, and what they found was shocking. It was made almost entirely of carbon dioxide, 16 times more CO2 than water. That ratio does not exist in our solar system. It is alien, a signature from a different birthplace, a star system with raw materials utterly unlike our own. The coma is now estimated to be 300,000 kilometers wide, nearly half the size of the sun itself. Imagine that. A shroud of alien gas, so massive it could swallow worlds. But that was not the strangest part. The Very Large Telescope in Chile looked deeper, and found something that should be impossible: nickel without iron. In the cosmos, nickel and iron are inseparable. They are born together, fused in the hearts of stars, scattered together in supernovas. Nature does not divide them. The only place we have ever seen pure nickel is here on Earth, when humans deliberately separate it in industrial processes. So why is Atlas showing us nickel without iron? That's when the whispers began. Could Atlas be artificial? Could it be technology, not geology? Some suggest it could be a probe, an ancient alien craft that ignited its systems as it passed Jupiter. Others imagine it as a giant ark, a ship full of living organisms, exhaling carbon dioxide, venting waste into the void. And still others wonder,
What if Atlas itself is alive, a cosmic organism drifting through the galaxy, feeding on dust and gas, exhaling CO2 like a giant breath? And here's the truth. As of today, no one can rule it out. No one can say with certainty that it isn't alive, that it isn't artificial, that it isn't watching us even as we watch it. So again, we ask, what is Atlas really? A frozen wanderer from a star twice as old as our sun, a relic of civilizations long gone, or something stranger, something sent? And the clock is ticking. Soon, Atlas will slip behind the blinding glare of the sun. It will vanish from our view, leaving us with nothing but the questions it raised. A narrow window, a fleeting chance, and maybe, just maybe, the last opportunity we will ever have to face the truth. What makes Atlas different is not only its speed, its coma, or its alien composition. What makes it truly unsettling is when it appeared. July 2025 was not just another date in the calendar. It was the beginning of an unusually crowded season in our skies. 7 major comets, all converging toward the inner solar system, within months of each other. Astronomers call it a statistical outlier. Mystics might call it a sign, because in the rhythm of the heavens, nothing comes without meaning. Pause and ask yourself, why after decades of relative silence, do the skies suddenly unleash a swarm of icy wanderers, crowned by one that does not even belong to this solar system? These are not coincidences. For centuries, comets have been read as messengers, omens, bearers of change. And Atlas, racing in from the stars, carrying elements no earthly eye has seen before, arrives exactly as humanity stands at the threshold of its own unknown. Look closer. This object is not just a curiosity for scientists to measure. It is a mirror for its brightness growing long before it should, its tail bending against the solar wind. These are not mistakes of physics, they are provocations. Atlas seems to exist to break rules, to remind us that our laws are not final, that the universe is not tame, not predictable, not under our control. And while telescopes point upward, what do you think happens here below? Disruptions in the magnetic field, shifts in solar winds, strange patterns in our weather, our sleep, even our moods. You may laugh, but sensitive souls have already felt it. They wake restless, they dream vividly, they sense a tension building in the air. Atlas may be millions of miles away, yet its presence presses against the collective consciousness, like a weight we cannot name. So here is the real question. What is Atlas bringing with it? Is it only a visitor? Or is it a herald, something ancient, carrying a frequency our instruments cannot yet measure, but our spirits already feel? A signal not in radio waves, but in synchronicities, in intuitions, in that quiet voice, inside that whispers, pay attention. Scientists will tell you that Atlas brightened because of volatile gases on its surface, that comets sometimes do this, when they outburst, releasing gas and dust until their crusts crack. They will mention Showmaker Levy 9, the comet that shattered into fragments before colliding with Jupiter in 1994. That is the official narrative. Safe, predictable, manageable. But if you listen closer, if you trace the inconsistencies, a different picture begins to emerge. Atlas is not behaving like an ordinary comet. Its light flared too suddenly, its coma expanded too quickly, and its trajectory seems almost deliberate. Some astronomers whisper that it is moving like a craft approaching a planet, with intent. Mars. Harvard's Avi Loeb even dared to publish the possibility Atlas might not be a comet at all, but a disguised spacecraft. His speculation was radical, but it addressed the anomalies that the official story leaves unresolved. Why does the brightness surge mimic artificial lights powering on? Why does its tail bend toward the sun, defying solar wind? Why does nickel appear in its spectrum without iron? A separation that only industry, not nature, achieves. Loeb suggested something even more provocative. If Atlas is artificial, It could behave like a mothership. The sudden flares of brightness could be fragments breaking away, not random chunks of ice, but probes released into the solar system. He even asked whether the sudden appearance of another comet, CO 2025 F2 Swan, could have been one such fragment, intentionally seeded as Atlas moved past Mars. Later data ruled out that specific link, but the pattern still lingered. Atlas glows, it fractures, and its fragments scatter like signals across the sky. And consider this, Atlas is traveling on a path that keeps it parallel to the solar system's plane, threading past worlds with uncanny precision. It comes close to Jupiter, brushes past Mars, yet seems to arc deliberately away from Earth. Then at perihelion, its closest pass to the Sun, it hides perfectly aligned behind the blinding glare, invisible to every telescope on Earth. If this were camouflage, could it be more perfect? Behind the Sun, Atlas could slow shift course, release smaller bodies, and we would see nothing. The Sun itself would shield the maneuver. Energy would be abundant. Cover would be absolute. Coincidence or design? Now remember, before 2017, not a single interstellar object had ever been observed by humanity. In less than a decade, 3 have arrived: Oumuamua, Borisov 2I, and now Atlas 3I. One odd visitor could be chance. 2 begins to stretch probability. 3, each with its own anomalies, begins to feel like a pattern. And Atlas, larger, brighter, and stranger than the rest, is the crown jewel of this sequence. And there is one more eerie link: its origin. Atlas comes from the direction of Sagittarius, the same patch of sky where decades ago radio telescopes picked up one of the most famous unexplained transmissions in history, the WOW signal, a burst of radio energy, strong, clear, and never repeated. For years, scientists have argued about its origin: natural, artificial, forgotten. And now from that very same quadrant of the galaxy, another anomaly approaches us, cloaked in the shape of a comet. Is it random alignment, or a breadcrumb trail? NASA and ESA are already preparing to watch its flyby of Mars. On October 3rd, cameras aboard the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter could capture images of its nucleus, though even at their highest resolution, the details will be faint. Still, this is unprecedented. For the first time in human history, we may observe an interstellar object, not just from Earth, but from another planet's orbit. What will those images reveal? A cracked block of ice and dust, or something more deliberate, more geometric, more unsettling? And the timing matters. Atlas is not alone. In 2025, an unusual swarm of comets is diving inward. 7 significant objects in a single season, more than astronomers have seen in generations. Atlas is the centerpiece, but not the only player. Are we witnessing a cosmic accident of orbital mechanics, or a coordinated convergence? Are these fragments of a larger body, or are we being visited in numbers we never imagined? Think about it. 7 interstellar messengers, appearing almost together within months of each other, as if drawn by an invisible signal. Nature is rarely so synchronized. When comets wander in, they arrive sporadically, often separated by years or decades. But this feels orchestrated, like a fleet arriving not one by one, but in formation. And here lies the deeper mystery: their orbits. Several of these new arrivals seem to thread paths that take them not just near the Sun, but dangerously close to planets: Mars, Jupiter, even Saturn, almost as if their movements are scripted, like chess pieces positioned on a cosmic board. And every move raises the same chilling question: if these objects are not random, then who or what is directing? Astronomers will assure you that it's coincidence, a statistical cluster, a quirk of probability. But remember, until 2017, we had never once seen an interstellar object. Now 3 in under a decade, and a swarm in a single season. At what point does chance become design? At what point do we admit that the universe may not be as silent as we once believed? And there is another layer. One the media will not emphasize. The swarm's arrival coincides almost perfectly with a cycle long feared and long hidden. A period when the sun's magnetic field flips polarity, its activity surging to extreme, solar maximum storms of radiation, bursts of plasma, shockwaves of electromagnetic energy rushing outward. Why now? Why would so many foreign bodies appear in sync with the sun's most violent heartbeat? Could they be drawn to it, feeding on it, or worse, hiding within its storms? The truth is, we don't know, and maybe that's the most unsettling part. When you strip away the comfortable labels, the rehearsed explanations, what's left is a truth too big, too raw, too impossible to ignore. Atlas is not alone, and neither are we. And so the question remains, what exactly is Atlas? A comet, unlike any we've ever seen, a fragment of a world twice as old as our sun, or something designed, disguised, and deliberately placed on this path for us to note? The truth is hidden in plain sight, wrapped in light, cloaked in gas, moving too fast for comfort, and too strange to ignore. The media will continue to frame it as just another object. Reports will highlight the numbers, the orbits, the scientific jargon, but behind those careful words lies the part they won't tell you. The tail bending toward the sun, the unnatural brightness, the overwhelming cloud of carbon dioxide, the nickel without iron. These are not coincidences, they are signals, and whether natural or not, they are asking us to pay attention. Atlas does not travel alone, it comes in the company of others. A swarm of comets crowding the solar system. In a single season, a convergence not seen in living memory. 7 major objects, all racing inward, as if pulled together by some invisible hand. Is this simply the chaos of celestial mechanics? Or something orchestrated? Something purposeful? If you think about it too long, you begin to wonder. Maybe Atlas is not just an isolated traveler. Maybe it is the vanguard of something greater, and the timing matters. When Atlas reaches its closest point to the sun, it will be hidden from Earth, concealed in the brightest glare of the heaven. That means we will not see what it does next. If it slows down, if it changes course, if it releases anything, all of it could happen unseen, shielded by the sun's burning light. If you wanted to move through a star system unnoticed, there would be no better time, no better cover. But here is the most important truth. The mystery is not meant to be solved by scientists alone, it is meant to be faced by all of us. Because whether Atlas is a comet, a relic, or something more, its presence forces us to ask the oldest question of all. Are we alone? And if the answer is no, then what are we supposed to do next? You are not here by accident. You are watching this video right now, because deep inside, you already feel that this is not just another story. So don't let this moment pass. Share this video so more people can awaken to what's unfolding above us. And then scroll down. Leave your thoughts in the comments. What do you believe Atlas truly is? A wandering fragment of a dying system, a disguised craft, a sign meant for us? Let's open the conversation that the mainstream refuses to have. The truth may not come from a headline, but from all of us, asking, questioning, refusing to look away. This is your moment, this is our moment, and history may remember those who chose to see.